Well, welcome back to another episode of Building Wealth with Real Estate. I'm Cameron Ripley, the broker owner of Vision Forward Realty and also the broker owner of Purpose Home Loans. And so today I'm excited because we're going to start talking about some really big deals. The last few episodes we started from the beginning, so we start each week. I'm trying to do this with with my schedule, but each week we pick a property that you can start at that's multifamily. How do you scale up from there for each property to where you get more units and more units? Because the more units you get, the lower, the more that you lower your risk because you have so many more units being rented out. But the more that you can also increase your equity and your value and really build your wealth. So this next one's great because I think for a lot of people who are listening, this is where you start to replace your own income. In my opinion, I mean, it's all up to you and your own situation. Or if you're just a seasoned investor and you're really trying to build some long-term wealth, or someone who's a high income earner and you're really looking for a huge tax break, this is a great property. So last time we talked about a quadplex, a 4-unit place that was listed at $799,000. How do you increase the value and increase the property? Remember, when appreciation goes up at a higher price, so does the money you're working with. So I'm assuming we're doing a 1031 exchange from that property to this one, or if someone is looking for a big tax break, they have some money saved, maybe they're an investor, they're looking to do a second mortgage or, from one of their properties they've had for a long time, whatever the situation might be, this is a great opportunity. The starting price might be a little bit off where it should be, but there's a lot of upside potential with this. So this listing is at 521 21st Street in Sacramento. It's listed by Kim Hauch with Remax Gold. It's a 6-unit apartment complex. So once you go 5 units or more, it switches the loan type from residential mortgage to just more of a multifamily, kind of like a commercial loan. So the loans can be a little bit different. The way I look at it is the main difference is I can't occupy one side and be able to do 5% down for a traditional mortgage. This has to be an investor type loan. It can either be a DSCR loan or just some investor loan, right? Once again, with a lot, I say this in almost every episode, every once in a while I find a lender who will offer for a short period of time a 10% down payment, but most offer or require a 20% down payment on a property like this. So this property is being listed at $1,250,000. A 20% down payment is $250,000. The current yearly rent is $71,100, right? So this is where people can start looking at, okay, I'm replacing my income, depending on where interest rates are at, of course, because it is being sold at a 5.6% cap rate. So I do think it has room for some negotiations. They did somewhat recently do a price drop and it's been on the market. There could be all kinds of other factors why it hasn't sold, could be condition, whatever it is. Whenever I'm working with a client or we have a real estate fund, which we don't have one going right now. So this isn't us soliciting any real estate funds. But when I look at this kind of stuff, I am not trying to, I'm trying to figure out how did they come up with that price? What's the condition of the property? What's the upside potential? What's the great risk with it that we might run into? Things like issues with the property, whatever it might be. This part of Sacramento, it's a decent area in Sacramento, but it's great for people who are looking to work, have access to a lot of downtown nightlife, whatever it might be, young professionals, people who have been there for a while. Doesn't really matter, right? But it has a lot of upside potential compared to a lot of areas around it. I think the market rents are a little low, but also that might be a reflection of the condition of the property. Not too sure. So I would probably come in and try to negotiate a lower price or some type of credit to cover, expenses so that at least I can get a better deal, leverage my money a little bit more, right? But I'm going to come in there with a 6-unit apartment complex. The great thing is when you do a 3 to 4% rent increase every single year, it's going to be able to scale up faster, right? Because that $71,000, when I add 3% of a rent increase year over year, right? Because it's 3% increase added on, and then 3% of that increased value, then 3% of that increased value, right? And this is how you can scale up that cap rate. The nice thing about this that I kind of look at is when you have a cap rate that's a lot lower and interest rates are higher, once I buy a property and interest rates drop, I can sell at a higher cap rate because it makes more sense. Or sorry, a lower cap rate because it makes more sense. So let's say we negotiate this, I buy it at a 6.5% cap rate, right? I try to find a way where I'm not losing money every single month. I mitigate my risk, but I have upside potential to improve the property. I can also just increase the rents every single year. Then when interest rates drop, it means that there are more buyers out there who can buy my property. I can then sell at a lower cap rate because it makes sense, right? I have investors now, a bigger investor pool who can use a DSCR loan to purchase this property, right? It's easier to increase the value at a higher starting price, or sorry, it's more beneficial to increase the value at a higher starting price than a lower starting price. I say this in almost every episode. If I were to buy, and I get a lot of clients and a lot of new investors who keep thinking that they should be buying the cheapest property in just some random area because it's cheap. The thing is let's just say, hypothetically, values increase 6% in every market across America, which is not true by any means. But let's just say it did. If I buy a property at $100,000 and values increase 6%, that's $6,000. Hopefully I'm doing that right. But yeah, $6,000, right? That's not a huge increase. If I buy a property at $1 million and there's a 6% increase, right? Everyone's expecting me to do the math, $60,000. But right, I know that that's a much bigger increase. And so I want to get to a point where I'm working with higher numbers because as values go up, as I increase rent, I have just such an exponential growth because even though the percentages might be the same, the increase in value dramatically increases, right? So my goal is to get to something like this, not just because it's more units. That is great because if there's vacancy rates, I know that I am mitigating my risk and my monthly liabilities because there's other units being rented out. It's not likely that you're going to get every single tenant, you know, moving to somewhere else, right? With a duplex, if I get both tenants moving, I'm a little stuck. So I got to make sure I can handle that monthly payment. It's very unlikely that you're going to get 6 tenants moving at the exact same time, right? So that's one upside. The bigger upside is I'm trying to get to a higher starting point, right? They're not building a lot of these multifamily 6-unit, buildings in the greater Sacramento area. And if they are, it takes a long time to get approval and get it done. It takes a lot more cash, so a lot less people are doing it. But my goal is to increase that because it's going to grow my equity and my wealth so much more. And then I can do a 1031 exchange to something bigger or do a second mortgage, whatever it might be. It depends on the market. But my goal, and whatever your goal is either to hold on to this, if that's your goal and that's your nest egg for your retirement, or my goal is to scale up even bigger so that when I can retire, I'm working with even higher numbers. I think that if people are, depending on what income you make now, I think people should be basing it off of, I want to be making more from my rental property than I make at my current job when I look to retire, but also I should be working with 15 or more units. I want to get to a point where when I have vacancies, because let's say there's a downturn or a recession in the market, I'm okay because I have more units that are covering the gap between these other units that aren't paying, if that makes sense to everyone. If you have more questions about this, if you want to schedule a one-on-one with me or someone from our team, please email us either at info@visionforwardrealty.com or info@purposehomeloans.com. So hope to see you on the next episode where we're going to dive into a 10-unit apartment complex in the greater Sacramento area. So see you on the next episode. Thank you.